but it's like being on another planet. And there's where the top would be squeezing. Look at that. And if it's coming through on camera, there's a bit of a fog right there if you're noticing it, where it looks hazy. It's a bright, vibrant orange, and it's a combination of like droplets of water and little tiny stalactites that are forming. All right, so someone's definitely been here since I was here, because on the top, we survived and we'll be back. After traversing down that icy slope, we are met with frigid temperatures down here. You can see my breath in front of me. Lots of ice, lots of icicles, and lots of areas to explore down here in the depths of the earth. We're going to see some interesting things, some different from the last exploration I did, some very similar. If you want to check out this location, which is going to go off behind you and to my left, all you simply need to do is come along with me. Now, this location I'm not unfamiliar with, but it has been several years since I've been here. Just to point out, the vein of coal or coal seam is right there. It's about 2 feet. A lot of discarded items down here. And we have a big rock fall right in front of us, which obviously you know where that came from. The top or the back. Same thing over here. Big, massive slab laying here. Broke off and fell just a couple feet from its original location. So, not being maintained or inspected, and the freeze-thaw cycles here in Pennsylvania, this is bound to happen. But it looks like so far nothing's really changed from what I can remember. So we're going to press forward. We're going to follow the same method I did last time, sticking with one direction off to the right, circling back, and then coming back to that little offshoot to the left that I pointed out during the intro. So let me press ahead, scout it out briefly, make sure it's okay, and then we'll keep going. Some really neat ice formations down here. It's like a sword. Now, I did use the term plenty of headroom loosely because, as we could see, it is pitched in here. To the right is lower, left is higher. And wearing my hard hat does take away a little bit of headroom. But before we move on, just to point out a few things. Off to the right here, that hand-laid stone wall, as I've explained in the past, is known as gobbing. It's a way to basically store or get rid of waste material without having to haul it outside. They neatly stack it up and also shores up loose top or back, and also could be served as a wall to block off access to other areas. So there is a multitude of uses for gobbing, but this is a great example of it down here. We're also going to see numerous timbers, like right there, also known as stalls, which are used for support and for an alarm system. If they start breaking and popping, then the miners would have known that the top or back is pinching and squeezing, giving away. Now, the floor or the bottom is just that. The roof or the ceiling is known as the top or back, and the sides are known as the ribs, R-I-B-S. But we can see on the floor here, at one time there were rails down here. There are little ties down here where the rails would have been attached to for mine carts to haul material in and out, specifically out, empties back in. And this is like the main haulage tunnel or drift tunnel. And then off to the left we do have, as we're going to come across multiple worked out areas, which are really narrow because that was only the size of the vein of coal. They don't make any profit mining or hauling out this material right here, just the bedrock. So we're going to see a lot of this. I'm not going to show you all of them, but we will check them out here and there as we make our way down. Here's another example of one of those mined out areas where they only chase and follow the vein of coal. This one, looking up there where the light is, that goes back at least 50 feet as far as I could see. Off to the left over there goes even further. With knee pads and coveralls or something like that, you can certainly do that. It's definitely claustrophobic conditions, which doesn't bother me, but it's going to be a workout. So if miners could do it, explorers like me could do it. Just have to have the proper gear. But I'm not prepared to do that today, nor do I have any interest. I would not do that by myself. I would have to make sure someone is with me for going into areas like that. But we can see right here, the vein of coal which they didn't take out, they often leave these behind, known as pillars. Pillars is basically like a column of support to help support the top from collapsing down. So there is a method called robbing the pillars where mines were about to close, and they would mine these areas out since they weren't going to work in them anymore, extract the most coal, and not worry about if it's going to collapse afterwards. So that's pretty much what we're looking at here are natural pillars made out of anthracite coal. That's exactly what they are, because as we're going to see when we go right past this one, it opens up yet again. So that's basically what we're looking at, are pillars and mined out areas. Now, some of these definitely are impressive at how far back they go. They would have had to basically chisel away a picks maybe. I don't know if they would have blasted areas like this, but it may have been done by hand. And a lot of times gravity would work on their side where they have a shaker chute. They would put the coal on and it would vibrate and shake and send the coal down to awaiting cars down here. So there's a good chance that could have been done here. And some of these areas may even open up to bigger workings, but we won't know today. And unlike the last mine I explored, this one's comparatively dry for being underground. A lot of these timbers are still fairly solid, where the last one was soaked with moisture and they were rotting and just really brittle, and completely different environment down there. The gobbing wall does continue off our right, and we're going to continue straight ahead. Probably not coming through on camera, but the sheen off this coal is really nice and shiny. Often why it's called the black diamond. Now, obviously I have modern day lighting, really powerful lighting. Miners back in the day, the earlier days would have had the carbide lamps, which is basically a hat or a helmet with a little container of fluid and an open flame. Gives off really minimal light, but it is better than nothing. The problem with that though is when mining, if they do break into a pocket of methane, well, open flame, that's instant explosion. There are different lighting methods. What they actually do teach on the mining tours, especially at the Brooks mine, the UGM guys do teach about the different headlamps and lighting sources. And in more closer modern days, they would have battery powered headlamps, which have come a long way, but they're still not as bright as like the lights I have, but these are not intended for like all day use. This is just for what we're using it for, exploring. Now, in case you are curious what it's like down here with no lighting, well, let's demonstrate that right now. I'm going to kill that light. I'm going to kill my headlamp. And that is it. Total darkness. Can't see anything in front of your face. I'm holding my hand up right now. You can't even see it. So it is pure darkness down here. And as I stay quiet for a minute, you're just going to hear the occasional dripping and nothing else. It's eerily silent. You also may have noticed too, I am wearing a new piece of equipment. This is my multi-gas detector, 4-gas detector. Detects for oxygen levels. It will trigger the alarm if it goes below 19.5. And right now it is 20, good oxygen down here. Also tests for H2S, which is hydrogen sulfide, EX or LEO, which is low explosive limit, which is combustible gases, and then CO, carbon monoxide. So if anything is down here that's dangerous, this will beep and vibrate and light up and let me know. But so far conditions are perfectly suitable for being down here without any issues. Now, since I did bring up lighting, I do want to talk just a bit about that because I do have a new light source with me that I am kind of debuting, seeing how it's going to perform. And everything I am talking about is going to be linked down below in the description. So the light showing on me right now, which is on a lower setting, is my Sofern. It's the high-powered long-distance light. On here, my headlamp is my Olight. I'll have the models linked down below. And I have a new light right here by Olight. So first off, thanks to Olight for reaching out to me once again, allowing me a chance to work with them and debut one of their newest lights. This is the Arc Field Ultra. This is a 3-in-1 light. Not only is it a really slim, thin profile, but it's got a magnetic charging base and 3 light sources. So number one, this can be locked out, so that way if you accidentally press the button, it won't power on and wear the battery down. It is waterproof. So for the first light source, all you do is push the switch over to the main light, press the button, it will power on. It's a low setting right now. Long press it, it will go brighter. And if you triple press, that is turbo mode. It's actually a really bright light for such a small light. Now from there, you can switch to laser. You can see that? There is a laser on this, so you can point at things as you are talking about it. And then we do have UV, ultraviolet. Yeah, so here's the UV light, kind of spooky and creepy down here. If anything was to glow like material, it will light it up. And there is the laser, which is nice to have with you at all times. And you could also power on the light with the laser. So you could have the light and laser simultaneously. And for the lighting power, the main light is 1400 lumens and the UV light is 900 watts. It also does come, I believe, a couple different color options. So if you do want to get more information and the pricing on this, there will be a few links provided down below. But for the next segment that we're going to do, I'm going to be filming and lighting this up with just this light, so just so you can get a better understanding as to how it works, how it demonstrates. But thanks once again to Olight for the opportunity to review and share with you the Arc Field Ultra Slim 3-in-1 light. Now, back to exploring. So now the lighting you're seeing is just the Olight Arc Field Ultra right there. It's on the high setting, not the turbo setting. And as you can see, it puts out a decent amount of light. It's not a long distance thrower. It's not like a spotlight or a searchlight. More of a floodlight. Lights up the immediate area. And a quick triple press will give you turbo, even brighter. Of course, on turbo, the battery won't last as long, but it does throw off the most amount of light. And I'm relieved that we have plenty of headroom here. I'm standing straight up and there's at least another foot of clearance above me. And it has warmed up slightly back here. Now typically, and I can't really explain this one, typically, as we've seen in the last one I explored, the last mine, I had my thermal gun. Temperature was right around 52, 53 degrees, give or take a degree. And usually over 90% of mines underground are the same temperature because they are underground. There's a slight breeze, airflow, maybe 1 to 2 miles an hour. But again, my detector is showing good oxygen levels, but I just don't know why it stays so cold. Protruding out of the top or the back here is a narrow gauge spike. That's the same type of spike that would have been used to secure the rail down into the small ties. They could have had something attached to that, maybe even ran cable down here. This is not a really extensive mine, so I don't think they had to run any type of ventilation or even plumbing. Like I said, it's really dry conditions. And right now we are starting to climb in elevation, and if it's coming through on camera, there's a bit of a fog right there if you're noticing it, or it looks hazy. I think I remember that. That may or may not trigger my detector. We're gonna see. It could just be moisture in the air, which I'm guessing it probably is. Even in front of my light here, you can see the moisture. It just kind of hangs down here. So just for understanding, you know, we came down, plateaued on the bottom, leveled out, stayed level, now we're climbing. And okay, now I know why there's moisture here. Here's where the heat is. The coal is just hanging on longer based on the direction and the slope and everything like that. It is significantly warmer. That's why it's hazy and foggy and full of moisture back here. This is where the heat is. It's steadily getting warmer. And it's also much more damp here. So these stoles are kind of rotted. There's some nails sticking out of them. And actually I could demonstrate too. It may not show up on camera, but I am using the laser at the same time. So I could point at things. I could also just turn the light off and use a laser. Just like that, but you can't see what I'm pointing at. But well, look at that though. It's actually pretty cool to see that down here. It's showing right through the moisture, that haze. That's why you could see the beam. That's a pretty neat effect. Pressing forward, it is much more spacious back here. And it feels really good with temperature-wise. It was probably in the 30s down here most of the way. And as soon as we hit about 30, 40 feet back, instant change. As soon as we saw that fog and that haze, that's where the clear defining line was between the cold temperatures and the warm temperatures. And the cold obviously is creating dry conditions. The warm, more damp conditions. Pressing forward just a little bit here. And just a quick demonstration, my headlamp, my Olight, that's turbo mode. Nice floodlight, throws it really wide. Lights up everything right around you. The Olight Arc Field Ultra right there. Again, not as bright, but throws a nice floodlight, but it is 3-in-1. And comparing the Sofern, which you can ramp up the intensity, and you can see the clear difference right there. So Sofern is specifically a spotlight for throwing at a distance. So that's why I always bring multiple light sources. You never know what you're going to need. And for seeing at a distance, this is one of the lights that is intended to do that for you. So just wanted to show you a better demonstration and example. So when you have all three lights going, well, you're like a walking search party. Just checked my detector, we're at 20.702. Everything else is reading 0. Looks like somebody may have had an older flashlight down here or light source. Some old Everready D batteries. I'm always amazed by the colorations down here too. So we have the bedrock on top there, the coal seam, and then more bedrock. And it's just a combination of brown, orange, yellow, some whites mixed in. It's also really interesting. I forgot how this changed so drastically from cold to warm, from dry to damp conditions, all in the same location. There's like a little spool of some steel braided cable there. That's looking back where we're just coming from. Little worked out pocket area here, may have been for storage of equipment. Another little ledge shelf area, and then another worked out area above it. Seeing a lot of that too, where it's almost like tiers or levels getting up to where the actual coal seam is. And I noticed above me, it says Sean 03. Sorry, 93. So let's see. That's 32 years old. We're now in 2025. Now looking on the ground here, you can see a clear defining line of like dark dirt material, and then on the left where water has came through, and it looks like it may be coming down right there. And even the top here is glistening in rust colored water. That is probably iron leaking through. That is actually really neat looking. Wow. It's a bright, vibrant orange. And it's a combination of like droplets of water and little tiny stalactites that are forming. That is such a neat look. Here's some remnants of a box. You can always tell by those little grooves right there, where it was like, I guess similar to like tongue and groove to form the corners of the box. A lot of times those were for explosives. Rotted can. Looks like it was a exploratory area that they filled up, backfilled. And look right here, the tiniest of columns. They left that little tiny piece of coal right there as a little column. I don't think that's even big enough to do anything. I'm surprised to see one that small, but that just stood out to me. I'm like, look how tiny that is. I mean, it's almost as big as this stall right here. And that's only maybe 3 feet wide. And it's not even as thick. It's really small, where those ones are a bit bigger. But these are prime example of pillars or columns used for support. Looks like there may have been one right here too. A lot of room and pillar, as they call it. Seems that the coal seams around here are not really all that big. You have to go usually further south towards like Hazelton and Lansford to tap into the Mammoth vein. To say this Arc Field Ultra by Olight is performing really well. It's all I'm using right now. A lot of times the lights I use are too bright where it washes out the image. This is throwing off just the perfect amount of light, and this paired with my DJI Pocket 3 camera on the low light setting, it's picking up everything really well. This is the best clarity I've ever had with documenting this particular location. Another pillar right there. And this whole area on the left is all just room and pillar. Not a whole lot of rockfall back here either, so the top or the back is really stable. Haven't seen any 3-piece sets or significant timber work, just the occasional stall or post here and there. All right, so someone's definitely been here since I was here, because on the top, we survived and we will be back. And that is pointing, that's from 2019, which I do know those initials and that tagging, they explored down here. So let me get my further throwing light, we'll light that up a bit better and see how it looks. Oh yeah, that goes off quite a ways. Knee pads for certain for that one. But that is pretty spread out. A lot of little tiny posts and stalls. But that is a big area. I wonder if it does go back to further workings as they did post. They'll be back. You probably already were. But that's one of the larger areas back here. But it's just no more than 2-3 feet at the most of clearance. So you're belly crawling, army crawling, nearly the entire way for here. And it looks like we have reached what is known as the face. The face is basically where the mine stops because the material, the wall, the earth is facing you. Now I think, without certainty, this may be backfilled. There is evidence that it could have kept going, but this is loose material that either collapsed down or is backfilled. So as far as this drifter tunnel goes, this is as far as we could go. Some more tagging down here. Like Sean was back here too. Yeah, I'm trying to look. There's a little ledge up here that goes back further. So either they just explored right there and stopped. Actually, may have a better idea as to what happened here. The vein of coal that we've been following, as I mentioned earlier, was around 2 feet, 2 to 3 feet in thickness. Here, it looks like it's a foot or less. Looks like the vein pinched out. The vein on that side is just getting smaller and smaller down to nothing. And looks like it is maybe picking back up over here, which is why it's explored down that opening that we saw where they posted they'll be back. So I think it was intentionally stopped here. The vein pinched out, nothing profitable back here. And this is just the leftover material from where they were just searching to see if it does keep going. So I feel confident that that's what happened. Boy, what a change from where we came from. It was cold and dry back there. And here near the face, it is really warm and humid. I'm breaking out into a sweat. And outside, it's, I think, right around 20 degrees. So although it's comfortable here, it's really damp conditions. So moisture is just really working its way out, which means we have to work our way back to the dry, cold conditions down there. Showed you pretty much everything that there is to see in this main haulage tunnel here. We have one more area, which is going to be on our right at the bottom of the slope there. From what I remember, the roof or the top or the back is not as high. We're going to be hunched over, which does give me some difficulty with breathing. So I'll show you what I can within reason, explain a few things. Well, we safely made it back. We're here at that rockfall area that we started at. And it is at least 20, 25 degrees cooler over here. Nice and dry, but really cold. So we're gonna follow to the right and check out this area just over here. I did leave my backpack there so I could have more room for bending over, but I am wearing my multi-detector on me, so just in case there's any bad pockets. Not the best top or back right here. You can see all the icicles coming down, and if you don't know, my viewers have dubbed that as nature's frozen tears. Some loose material right here. Some timbers and stalls wedged in place. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time over here, so we're just going to make this brief. And there's where the top would be squeezing. Look at that. Bent right in half. And look at the formation. Wow. That is nice and shiny and clear. And these are almost forming stalagmites, but it's just ice. But it's like being on another planet. So we're going to just show everything on the right, work our way to the back, and then come around. This will be our right over here. Moving past the little ice field, little pocket off here to the right. The seam of coal is about the same, 2 to 3 feet. Big timber right there. Actually, good echo back here too. And it's warmer over here too. We're climbing slightly in elevation, and we're getting warmer. Lots of wood and materials back here. Looks like there may have been rails here as well. You can see the ties on the ground. Looks like some old hardware. It's like a big washer. These almost look like fence posts. They are, I believe these are axe cut, because you can see the wedge shape there. So these were cut by axe, probably somewhere outside, and brought down here and used for whatever they needed them for. Some of them probably for stalls, some for chutes or something else. So this area, sorry, I had it tilted up. This area goes back. Let me get my long distance thrower here. So yeah, that goes back about 30 feet. It's like it pinches out. See the vein of coal in the back. There's moisture in the air here. And looks like it may go off to the left there. A couple little tiny pillars. Some gobbing right here in front of us. And then this is going to be our right on the way back, where that one does go back significantly further, at least 50 feet. Nothing but army crawl to get back there. And it's wet and damp. And some more gobbing right here as well. So over here is not as big, not as impressive. The vein of coal still seems like it's fairly the same size. Looks like some areas are smaller than others. It may have pinched out further back, which is why they stopped working this area. Or, without seeing the true back or their furthest point, it may open up to another tunnel or drift. Who knows? I don't have that answer, but it is in the realm of possibilities. You just have to comprehend the amount of labor just in stacking these stones from what we've seen today. I mean, that's hours and hours and hours of work. And backbreaking work. You're bending down, picking it up, stacking it. Not only would you get a good workout, you're going to build some nice muscle, but you're going to be worn out. You can see a fracture here as well, where it's actually like going in there. Just like a piece of shale, not really that big if it does fall. There's a bolt coming out of here. And as we look over here, as I step on the ice here, a lot of loose material. That crawl space there is about 1 foot. It looks like it actually opens up. Let me sit down a bit and throw the light back there. That looks kind of interesting. Yeah, so right here, this opening is about 1 foot of clearance. Got some timbers here, actually some lumber. Looks like it may have been milled, but lining the sides, some tiny stalls. But that actually opens up further back. Looks like off to the right, it may even actually open up bigger. So that is an interesting area, to say the least. But I see at least 3 to 4 stall timbers on the left-hand side going straight back, and then one on the right. But behind that right one is where it opens up, or appears to open up much more. Now back out of what I'm calling the danger zone. Looks like a loose top, definitely, and a lot of ice and debris. And right over here, wedged up timber stall and a little tiny pocket. Okay, it's collapsed in back there, which may connect to that area I was telling you about, where it looks like it opens up more. That may go back there. Boy, is it cold right here. I feel like going back there where it's in the 50s. So my 4-gas detector worked as intended, kept me safe. Right here where the air is coming down, it's 20.9. Back there is 20.7. I think the lowest I saw it got to, because I was checking it periodically, was like 20.2. 20 or above is really good oxygen. And even though back there the air is a bit stagnant with the moisture in the air, there's still enough oxygen. I think why it's so cold right here and the first part way back is just because this is a slope which is sending the cold air down, and it just kind of congregates right in this area until we start climbing an elevation. The cold air stays down, and the warm air rises. So that's what's happening, I think, down here. Although I've been here before, I feel like I did cover it better today. Not only gave you more visuals with the new camera, more lighting, and we're able to make more sense, as to what was going on down here, as far as like where they stopped mining because the vein pinched out, and some other methods like the room and pillar, the pillars and columns that we saw. Overall, this is a really fantastic location. I hope to come to it again in the future. If not, I at least documented it at least 2 times. But my very first time coming here, my friend Brian, we came during the winter and we attempted to come in, and the slope was just an ice run. We were iced out. We couldn't make it down without having like spikes and climbing gear. So we had to come back a few months later when it was still winter but not as cold, and allowed the ice to kind of melt and dissipate. There was one tricky area that I had to navigate on the way in, where there was a sheet of ice covering everything near like a bucket and a bench seat. But after that and above that, perfectly fine. It's not that bad at all. And despite some of the rock fall here, I will say this is one of the better, comparatively speaking, safer mines that you can explore, or that I've explored, because air quality is good. There's no gas, there's no H2S, no carbon monoxide. And aside from just a couple of areas where there's loose material, for the most part, it is pretty stable, and a piece of ice just fell. And further back, plenty of headroom, which is my favorite part. The worst thing I hate is being hunched over, having to navigate. I don't mind crawling on hands and knees and army crawling with knee pads, but walking hunched over, just not enjoyable for me. Anyways, if you want to see more videos related to this, there will be a playlist down below. And don't forget, if you want to get more information and pricing on the Olight Arc Field Ultra, which performs really well, if you want a 3-in-1 light, slim profile, magnetic rechargeable light, that is probably the one you want to check out. So everything will be down in the description. And I'm going to ascend out of here, get some lunch, and get on with the rest of my day. So thank you so very much for coming along. Hope you had a good time as much as I did. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video.